everyone, and welcome back to the English Prep Podcast. You know, if you're out there learning English and thinking about what's next, you're probably thinking about English proficiency exams.
Right.
It's a big topic.
A huge topic.
There are a lot of options out there.
So many.
IELTS, TOEFL, Cambridge English exams, even newer ones like the Duolingo English Test.
Right.
It can feel a little overwhelming trying to figure out which one is right for you.
Absolutely.
So that's what we want to do today.
Yeah.
Unpack these tests, see what makes them different, and hopefully make your decision a little clearer.
That's the goal.
So, let's just start at the very beginning.
Okay.
What are these exams really all about?
Well, at their core, they're basically just standardized tests to measure your English skills. And they do it across 4 core skills: listening, reading, writing, and speaking.
Okay, so those 4 major areas.
Yeah.
And people usually take them for some pretty big reasons, right?
Oh, yeah. Huge reasons.
We're talking about studying abroad.
Yeah.
Visa application.
Absolutely.
Even for work sometimes.
Of course. Especially in today's global world.
So yeah, big stuff.
Big stuff.
So let's dive into some of the big players here.
Right. Let's do it.
And maybe the one that we hear about the most well-known, is IELTS.
Yeah, IELTS, the International English Language Testing System.
Right.
It's one of the most established and globally accepted tests out there.
I feel like that's the one I hear about the most.
It is very popular.
And it's used for all those reasons that we just talked about, right?
Yeah. Education, immigration, professional registration.
Okay.
You'll see it a lot for the UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand.
Okay, so if you're thinking about those places.
IELTS is a good one to look at.
Okay.
Now, it's also important to know that there are 2 main types of IELTS.
Oh, okay, so there's not just one IELTS test. You have to choose which one.
You have to choose between the academic or the general training version.
Okay, and what's the difference?
Well, the academic version is if you're applying to a university or another higher education institution.
Yeah, makes sense.
And the general training one is typically if you're looking at work experience or for immigration purposes.
Okay, so it depends what your goals are.
Exactly.
And you choose which IELTS test based on your goals.
Yes, very important.
Okay.
And the content of the reading and writing sections actually differs between those 2.
Oh, okay, good to know.
Yeah.
So let's say you've decided IELTS is the one for you.
Okay.
What can you expect on test day?
Well, as we said, it tests those 4 core skills.
Okay. Listening, reading, writing, speaking.
Right. The listening section is about 30 minutes.
Okay.
Reading is an hour.
Got it.
Writing is also an hour.
Okay.
And then the speaking test is a face-to-face interview with an examiner.
Oh, wow. So a real person.
A real live person.
That must be nerve-wracking for some people.
It can be for some people.
How long is that speaking interview?
It's between 11 and 14 minutes.
Okay, so not too long.
Not too bad.
But I can see how having to speak to a person can make you a little nervous.
For sure.
Okay, so let's say you do the test.
Okay.
How is it actually scored? How do they figure out how well you did?
Well, IELTS uses a band system.
Okay.
It goes from band 1 all the way up to band 9.
Okay, so 1 is the lowest, 9 is the highest.
Exactly.
Okay.
You get a score for each of the 4 sections.
Okay.
And then they calculate an overall band score for you.
Okay, so you get an individual score for each section and then one big overall score.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
So what do you think are some of the advantages of IELTS?
Well, I think one of the big ones is you have the choice to do it on paper or on a computer.
That's a good point.
So if you're someone who, likes to write things down, or if you're more comfortable typing on a computer, you get to choose which way works for you.
You do. And for some learners, having that face-to-face speaking test can actually feel more natural.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could see.
Like they can really show off their conversational skills.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And of course, IELTS is accepted all over the world.
Right. Like pretty much every English-speaking country or university
pretty much
accepts IELTS.
Yeah, it's got that global recognition.
Okay, so lots of advantages.
Lots of pros.
But are there any disadvantages to IELTS?
Well, for some people, the emphasis on British English might be a little tricky.
Oh, yeah.
If you're more familiar with American English or other accents.
Yeah, if you've mostly learned American English,
right,
the British spellings and the British pronunciations might be a little strange.
It can be a bit of an adjustment.
And I imagine that face-to-face speaking test, even though for some people it's good,
yeah,
for other people it might be really scary.
Absolutely. It can definitely be a source of anxiety for some test takers.
Okay. So just something to keep in mind if you're thinking about IELTS.
For sure. Now, how about we look at TOEFL?
Okay, TOEFL.
The test of English as a foreign language.
Right.
This one is primarily designed for academic purposes.
Okay.
And it's really popular in the United States and Canada. Okay, so if you're thinking about going to a university in one of those countries...
TOEFL is the one to check out.
Got it.
The main version is the TOEFL IBT.
Okay.
Which stands for Internet-Based Test.
So the whole thing is on the computer?
That's right. All online.
Okay, so no paper option for TOEFL?
Nope. All digital.
Okay, and what kinds of sections are on the TOEFL?
Well, like IELTS, it tests those 4 core skills. Reading, listening, speaking, writing.
Okay.
Reading takes between 54 and 72 minutes.
Okay.
Listening is 41 to 57 minutes.
Okay.
Speaking is about 17 minutes.
Okay, and that's all on the computer?
Yes, and for the speaking section, you actually record your answers.
Oh, interesting. So you're not talking to a person?
No, you're just talking into the computer.
Which I imagine for some people might be less scary.
Yeah, a lot less pressure.
Than having a person staring at you.
Exactly. And then finally, there's a 50-minute writing section.
Okay, so those 4 sections, just like IELTS, but they're all on the computer.
Yep, all digital.
Okay, and how is TOEFL scored?
It's scored out of 120, with each section worth 30 points.
Okay, so you get a score for each of the 4 sections.
I do.
And then they add them up to give you a score out of 120.
Right.
Okay, I think I'm following.
What do you think are some of the advantages of TOEFL then?
Well, it seems like the biggest one is that American universities love it.
They do. It's very well respected in the U.S.
So if you're thinking about going to university in America...
TOEFL's a good choice.
Yeah.
And for some people, the fact that it's all on the computer is a good thing.
Right, if you're comfortable with technology.
Yeah, if you like typing and you don't mind staring at a screen.
It might be a better option than a paper test.
For sure. And the scoring system is very clear and straightforward.
Okay, yeah, you get a number for each section and then a total number out of 120.
Simple and easy to understand.
Okay, so are there any downsides to TOEFL?
Well, for some learners, they might miss that face-to-face interaction.
Right. Yeah, if you like talking to people.
Yeah, if you want to show off your speaking skills to a real person.
That might not be the best option for you.
And the other thing is, it can be a really long test.
Oh, yeah, you were saying those times.
Yeah, you need to have a lot of stamina and focus to get through the whole thing.
Okay, so you really got to prepare yourself mentally for a long exam.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on to another big one. The Cambridge English exams.
Okay, those are a good option, especially if you're in Europe.
Right. I feel like I hear about those a lot.
Yeah, they're very popular in Europe.
And there are a bunch of different levels.
There are different levels to choose from.
Like, what are some of the most common ones?
Well, there's B2, first C1 Advanced, and C2 Proficiency.
Okay. And those letters and numbers, what do they mean?
Well, they basically show your level of English.
Okay.
So B2 first means you can use English confidently for work or study.
Okay, so like an intermediate level.
Yeah, upper intermediate.
Okay.
C1 Advanced shows a high level of proficiency, so you can be successful in academic and professional settings.
Okay, so like an advanced level. And C2 Proficiency is like...
That's like near native speaker level.
Wow, so you're almost fluent.
Yeah, almost there.
Okay.
So you usually choose the exam that fits your current level of English.
Oh, okay, so you kind of have to know where you're at.
You should have a good idea. Yeah.
Before you choose which Cambridge exam to take.
Right.
Okay, and what's the format of these exams like?
Each exam has 4 parts.
Okay.
Reading and use of English writing, listening and speaking.
Okay, so similar to IELTS and TOEFL.
Yeah. Same 4 skills.
But this time it's called reading and use of English.
Right. It combines those 2 skills into one section.
Okay.
And the speaking section is interesting because you actually do it with a partner.
Oh, wow. So not with an examiner.
No, it's with another test taker.
That's so different from the other tests.
It is. It's more like a natural conversation.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Less pressure, maybe?
Maybe for some people.
Okay, and how are these Cambridge exams scored?
They use a scale that depends on the exam.
Okay.
But it generally ranges from around 160 up to 230 or even higher.
Okay, so a bigger range of scores than the other tests.
Yeah, it's a wider scale.
Okay, and you get an overall score?
You do.
And then a separate score for each of the 4 sections.
Right, so you can see your strengths and weaknesses.
Okay, that makes sense.
So what do you think are some of the big advantages of choosing a Cambridge exam?
Well, one thing that stands out to me is that the certificates don't expire.
That's a big one.
So once you pass,
yeah,
you have that certificate forever.
You do. It's proof of your English skills for life.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great for long-term goals.
And I think the other big thing is that they're really thorough.
They are. They really assess your language skills in depth.
Okay, so if you really want to prove that you're good at English, this is a good way to do it.
It's a great way to show your abilities.
Okay, but are there any downsides to these Cambridge exams?
Well, they might not be as well known outside of Europe.
Okay.
So if you're thinking about going to a university in America or Australia, they might not be the best option. It's good to check with the institution first.
Okay. And then the other thing is that they're only offered on specific dates.
Yeah, that's right.
So you can't just take it whenever you want.
You have to plan ahead and register for a specific date.
Okay, so it's less flexible than some of the other tests.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we've talked about 3 of the big ones.
Yeah, IELTS, TOEFL, Cambridge.
But there's this newer one that's becoming really popular.
Yeah, the Duolingo English Test.
Right. It seems like everyone's talking about that one these days.
It's really gaining popularity.
Why is that what's so special about the Duolingo test?
Well, it's completely online.
Okay, so you can take it from anywhere.
Pretty much anywhere with a good internet connection.
That's pretty convenient.
Very convenient.
Okay. And a lot of universities are starting to accept it?
They are, especially in the U.S. and Canada.
Okay, so it's becoming more widely recognized.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so let's say I'm thinking about taking the Duolingo test. What can I expect?
Well, it's a pretty short test.
Okay.
Only about an hour long.
Okay, so way shorter than TOEFL.
Yeah, much shorter.
And it tests all 4 skills, just like the other ones.
Yep, reading, writing, listening, and speaking.
Okay.
And you take it at home using your own computer and a webcam.
Okay, so really convenient.
Very convenient and comfortable.
You don't have to go to a testing center.
Nope, you can take in your pajamas if you want.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
It's very flexible.
Okay, and how is the Duolingo test scored?
You get a total score out of 160.
Okay.
And you also get sub-scores for different areas.
Okay, like what?
Like literacy, comprehension, conversation, and production.
Okay, so they really break it down for you.
They do, so you can see your strengths and weaknesses.
Okay, that's cool.
What do you think are some of the advantages of the Duolingo test?
Well, the convenience factor is huge.
Oh, yeah, it's super convenient.
Being able to take it online from anywhere.
Yeah, you're not limited by location or test dates.
And it's also more affordable.
Yes, it's generally cheaper than the other tests.
And you get your results really fast. Super fast, usually within 48 hours.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no waiting weeks for your scores.
And I like that they have a free practice test.
Yeah, that's great. You can try it out before you commit.
See if that's the right test for you.
Exactly. So lots of good things about the Duolingo test.
It sounds like it.
Are there any downsides?
Yeah. Are there any things that people should be aware of?
Well, it's not as widely accepted as the other tests.
Okay.
It's gaining popularity, but some universities and institutions might not recognize it yet.
Okay, so you always have to check.
Always.
Before you take the test.
Right.
And because it's shorter,
yeah,
some people might say that it's not as thorough.
That's a fair point.
As some of the longer tests.
Yeah. Some people think it might not be as in-depth.
Okay, so it's kind of a trade-off.
It is convenience versus depth.
But it's still a good option.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
Okay, so we've gone over all these different tests.
We have.
How do you actually decide which one is right for you?
Well, the first thing you have to do is think about your goals. Okay.
Where do you want to go? What do you want to do?
Right. Do you want to study abroad? Do you want to get a job?
Exactly.
Do you need it for a visa?
Yeah, what's the purpose of taking the test?
Okay.
Once you know your goals, then you need to research which tests are accepted.
Okay, so if I want to go to a specific university,
yeah,
I need to check if they accept TOEFL or IELTS.
Exactly. Some universities have specific requirements.
Ah.
So do your research.
Okay, research is important.
Very important.
What else should people think about?
Well, think about your own personal preferences.
Okay.
Do you like taking tests on the computer or do you prefer paper?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Some people get really nervous in a testing center.
Yeah, I hate testing centers.
So if you're more comfortable at home taking a test online, then maybe Duolingo is a good option for you.
Okay.
But if you prefer that face-to-face interaction, then maybe IELTS or Cambridge would be better.
Okay, so it depends on your personality a little bit.
It does, yeah.
And also, I imagine budget is a factor for a lot of people.
It is. These tests can be expensive.
Yeah.
So you need to think about how much you can afford to spend.
Right, and also how quickly you need the results.
Yeah, some tests take longer to score than others.
So if you're in a hurry, you might need to choose a test that has faster turnaround time.
Right.
Like Duolingo.
Yeah, Duolingo is known for its fast results.
Okay, so budget and time are also things to consider.
Definitely. And one more thing to think about is your own strengths and weaknesses.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Are you better at academic English or more everyday conversational English?
Right, because some of these tests focus more on academic English.
Exactly, like IELTS academic or TOEFL.
So if you're not comfortable with that kind of language, it might not be the best choice for you.
You might want to choose a test that focuses on more general English skills.
Right, like the general training version of IELTS.
Right, or a Cambridge exam.
Okay, so know yourself and know what you're good at.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say I've narrowed it down.
Okay. Figured out, what my goals are, what my budget is, and which tests are accepted by the places that I want to apply to.
Okay.
Are there any, general guidelines for how the scores compare to each other?
There are some rough equivalencies.
Okay.
So, for example, an IELTS BAM score of 6 is roughly equivalent to a TOEFL score of 80.
Yeah.
Or a Duolingo score of 95.
Right.
Okay.
Similarly, an IELTS score of 7
is roughly equivalent to a TOEFL score of 100.
Right.
Or Duolingo score of 115.
Okay.
Okay, but these are just general guidelines.
Yes, they're not exact conversions.
So you always have to double check
Always.
with the specific institution
Right.
what their requirements are.
Exactly. Don't just assume that a 6 on IELTS is the same as an 80 on TOEFL.
Right, because it might not be.
It might not be.
Every place has their own rules.
That's right.
Okay, so let's say you've chosen your test.
Okay.
You've registered. You've paid your money.
Yeah.
What are some final tips for success?
Well, one of the best things you can do is take practice tests.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
That way you'll get familiar with the format, the types of questions, the timing of each section.
Right, so you're not surprised on test day.
Exactly. And you can identify your weaknesses.
Okay. What else?
Make sure you're practicing your English every single day.
Right. Use it or lose it.
Yeah, use it or lose it.
Yeah.
Listen to podcasts, read books, watch movies.
Talk to people.
Talk to people if you can.
All the things.
Immerse yourself in the language.
And focus on your weaknesses.
Right. If you know you're not good at listening,
Mm-hmm.
spend extra time practicing your listening skills.
Exactly. And finally, don't wait until the last minute to study.
Oh, yeah. Procrastination is not your friend.
Not your friend. Create a study plan. Manage your time wisely.
And give yourself plenty of time to prepare.
Exactly.
So as you can see, choosing the right English proficiency exam is a big decision.
It is.
There's so many factors to consider.
So many.
But hopefully this deep dive has given you a better understanding of the options and a clearer path forward.
Right. And the most important thing to remember is that the best exam for you is the one that aligns with your own personal goals.
Exactly.
And your individual needs.
Your needs, your preferences, your learning style.
Right.
It's all about finding the right fit for you.
So as you continue your English learning journey, think about what stands out to you the most from all of this information.
Yeah.
What are your priorities? What are your goals?
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right. If you're not sure about something, do some more research.
Talk to people who have taken these tests.
Reach out to us.
We're here to help.
We're happy to answer any questions you have.
Absolutely.
And ultimately, we want you to succeed.
We do.
So choose the test that you feel most comfortable with and go for it.
Good luck.
Good luck, everyone. We'll see you next time.